Welcome to Let's Bark About It. I'm your host today, Dr. Callie Thompson from the Northwestern Veterinary Hospital. Our guest today is Melanie Wynn and her dog Chester. So Melanie, welcome to Let's Bark About It.
Thank you, good to be here.
Thanks for taking the time out of your day. Let's start a little bit, Melanie. Chester is a rescue dog,
Yes.
right, that you personally own now and care for. How did you initially become involved with the rescue organization?
A few years back, about almost 4 years ago, my dog was 14, she was old, love of my life. She ended up having cancer, she had problems with her heart, so she had to be put down and she passed away, which is the hardest thing that we've done. So because of that, we decided we're never adopting again. It was too hard to say goodbye. So I saw on Facebook people needing rescue, like for foster homes, and I was like, well, that's a good way I could do it. I won't own a dog, I could just help dogs find new homes. So that was the plan.
Sounds like it didn't quite maybe turn out that way at the end of the day.
No.
Okay. What, in your experience, because you've obviously spent a lot of time doing this and had many animals in your care, what do you think the hardest part about being a foster is?
The hardest part is saying goodbye, right?
Yeah.
It's easier if I could do the home visit or if I'm a part of the adoption process, because then I could see where they're going. But you have this foster come in, you bond with them, you're caring for them, and it's hard that way. And it's also hard seeing the condition they come in.
Right.
I've had very sick pups that have passed away in my arms because I couldn't save them and there was nothing that could be done. Like the vets did all they could and you just give them comfort to the end. And then you say you're never going to foster again because it was too hard, but I'm addicted to fostering.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it sounds like as much as those are hard parts about being a foster, there also obviously has to be a reason for you to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that for you, looking backwards on your experience, really have kind of kept your heart in the game and kept you going forward every day?
It's watching them come in. They look sick sometimes. They don't know how to play. They don't act like a puppy. They're just there to survive.
Right.
Like a dog's just there to survive. So it's eat, find a place to hide. And then once they start coming out of that shell and they start playing with toys, it's just, you look at them and you go, oh, you have the chance to now be a puppy or a dog. And wow, like it's just watching them evolve into a healthy, like well-behaved animal. It's just so rewarding.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. What is the youngest that animal that you've ever fostered?
0 days.
Okay. So you've had a mom that's given birth then in your
I've
home?
had 2 moms give birth. in my
Wow.
home.
Okay. That's got to be a very interesting experience.
The last one we had was she was in labor on the reserve, like in the northern community.
Okay.
And the flights kept getting delayed and delayed, so we're just waiting. So she's in the crate, coming in, and then she's stuck in Sioux Lookout, and then next thing you know, like I'm running to the airport expecting puppies in there.
Right.
2 hours later, after she landed, she gave birth to her babies.
Oh,
So
wow.
just in time, yeah.
Okay.
And it was -40 out too, so.
Very interesting.
Yeah. It's always an adventure.
Yeah, and I guess there's never a dull moment.
No, there really isn't.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Is there any case that really, or foster that really stands out for you the most? Maybe in a way that you felt big or small, that you really made an impact in that animal's life?
They all have a little piece of my heart,
Of
right?
course.
But there was one, her name was Kalika. I'm not sure her name now, but she came into my care with her mom and she was missing both her back paws.
Okay.
So I had her for about 3 months and I taught her how to walk with booties, and then before she left, she was running with no back paws.
Wow.
Yeah, so just watching her and then being with her and bonding with her and like just having little mats so she can get around. I wanted to keep her, but I have stairs and it just wasn't the right home. So she went to a home with ramps.
Which is perfect,
And it was just like, that's what I was like, I was able to let her go because she had found the perfect home. Yeah.
So Chester's obviously having a lot of fun on our set today, checking all out the smells and the sound. Why don't you share with us a little bit about Chester's story and how he came into your life?
Yeah, Chester was found in a northern community in the garbage dump.
Oh, wow.
He was dying. He had barely any fur. He wasn't doing well. So someone came across him, and he was about 8 weeks old, I think, when they found him.
Okay.
So he was rushed to a vet with a different rescue, and He was diagnosed with parvo.
Oh, wow.
So
That's a very serious medical condition.
So he was already weak. He didn't have like the nutrition. So they thought for sure he would die.
Of course.
But he managed to pull through. And when he was with that rescue, they didn't have a foster home for him. So it reached out to the rescue I'm with. So then he ended up with me and never left.
Permanent place in your heart. Right now, does Chester share the house with anybody else, or is he? Yes, he does.
Chester always shares the house because I always have fosters coming and going. He's used to it. He's the big dog. He's the boss of the house. We also have 2 other dogs, Gus and Georgie. Georgie's my youngest one, but.
Do you find it's helpful having sort of an experienced and well-mannered and well-trained dog at home when you're fostering? Like, is that an advantage for you?
Lead the pack.
Yeah, exactly.
They lead the pack. So he's the best behaved out of all my dogs.
So someone good to look up to.
Yeah, and the other ones will follow him. So like if I go to an off-leash park, I can call, and as long as one comes, the rest will follow because it's a pack mentality, right? So
that's awesome. So he earns his keep. He's not.
Oh yeah, he gets his treats and his goodies. Yeah.
He's as hardworking as you almost.
Yeah,
I guess,
he
on a
is.
daily
He really
basis.
is. He keeps us safe.
So obviously, Melanie, animals have had a big impact in your life, and potentially with some of your personal challenges. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that journey with us today?
Sure. My memory is just kind of shot, so I'm going to give you a ballpark idea.
That's okay.
I was diagnosed with cancer, stage 3 colorectal cancer, and before I was diagnosed, Chester could sense it, but I actually just made a joke. I probably have cancer or something like that, right? It was a bad joke, but he kept looking at me funny, like he was scared of me. And I was like, why are you looking at me funny? Why are you scared of me? And it's like he could sense it before I even knew I had it.
So you noticed a change in his behavior at that time?
Yeah, he acted really funny with me, and I just didn't understand. Like, you don't usually snuggle with me, but he didn't know what to do. He looked scared.
Okay.
Yeah, so after I was diagnosed, he stayed by my side the entire time. If I was at home, he would always be by my side, watching over me. He wouldn't leave my side. Like, he was my protector.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And that must have given you a reassurance, would you say?
Yeah, and it's comfort. You're not feeling good, you're lying in bed or you're lying on the couch, and to have someone that you could talk to or like hang out with, he was
or understand what you're going through.
He really was sympathetic. Like, he'd put his head down and just look like, wish I could make it better for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you able to, at that time, continue fostering, or did you have to kind of put that on the back burner for a little bit?
I put it on the back burner for the first year that I was fighting it, and I had surgeries, and I wasn't physically capable of it.
No question.
But for the last half of my chemo, I missed fostering so much. And I was just like, I saw these dogs in need, and I was like, I'm at home, I could help them. So I started up fostering again. So.
And do you think that helped with the final stages of that recovery phase?
Yeah, it gave me this great feeling, this like achievement. I helped these animals get better while I'm trying to get better, and felt really good.
Kind of a journey for both you and the animals you were taking care of at the same time.
Yeah,
that's excellent. Last question I have for you for this segment, Melanie, would be if any of our viewers out there hear your story and Chester's story and are really interested in potentially getting involved with a rescue and doing foster work, what do you think are some of the most important things that they need to be aware of, going into that before they get involved?
Everyone has different ways of dealing with things. So like when I tell people I foster, they're like, oh, I would never be able to let them go. I would keep all of them. I hear that very often.
Right.
And I understand completely. I want to keep almost everyone that comes in too. If I did that, I'd have over 120 dogs.
Fair enough.
So I just tell myself that I'm helping them on their path to a new life. And without me helping them, they won't survive. Like, they are stuck on a northern community, or they're wherever, they're sick. If there's no foster homes, we can't bring them in.
Right.
So it's a struggle, and every rescue you talk to, they are in dire need of foster homes, because a lot of times what happens is people foster, then they adopt. And then now they want to train that puppy and then whatever, and then they're out of the system, right? So now they're
Right.
doing their own thing with their own dog.
And you've lost a foster home for
yeah,
other
and
animals.
we've lost it. And it happens often. That's great though, because the puppy found a home or the dog found a home, but we have a hard time bringing them in. It's a crazy cycle. Yeah.
So fostering is a big need then within the rescue
Extremely,
organizations.
yes.
If a viewer out there is thinking, you know, I don't know if that I could do the foster aspect of working with a rescue organization, but I want to help out in another way, what would be some of the other ways that the public could get involved?
We do events, and we could always use help with the dogs or the puppies at the events that we do. There's home visits. Volunteers to help us go to the homes just to have like little conversations and make sure it's a good fit for the pup or the person, right?
Sort of interviewing prospective new owners for these animals.
Yeah. So like if we went to a smaller house and they wanted a big dog, we're like, well, this big dog might not fit in there, but how about we've got this one or this one, and we just try to make the right fit, right? We want it to work out.
Right. And at the end of the day, I think you know, that's got to be the most successful thing for the animals and the new owners, is that the right connection is made, so it's a permanent one that'll last a lifetime.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you again very much, Melanie and Chester, for your time and for joining us today. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back for more of Let's Bark About It. Welcome back to Let's Bark About It. I am now joined by our next guest, Erin Manahan, and her dog, Jem. Welcome, Erin, and thanks for your time today. Why don't we start with talking a little bit about, or if you could share with us, how you initially became involved with rescue organizations.
I initially became involved through a friend who had lost her foster, and I was out helping to look for it. So I asked her how to get involved and be more than just somebody giving money, more hands-on. And she directed me towards the one she was working with, which was Northern Reach Rescue.
Excellent.
Then I did a bit of research and I found a whole bunch of them, but I like Northern Reach because it's short-term fostering.
Okay.
It's at 2 weeks at most.
Okay.
And they go down to Southern Ontario.
Oh, okay.
We do a transport, they go down there, it's foster based down there also,
Okay.
until they get adopted. And if I have them too long, I'm gonna wanna keep them.
Get attached.
Yeah,
Fair.
and I also like the fact they get out of this area because there's so many dogs in need in this area that
Right.
getting them down to Toronto where they are looking for dogs right now.
More homes for them.
Yeah, well, people are looking for dogs. The humane side down there is empty.
Excellent.
So they get down there, they can really, really put a lot into who's adopting them and giving the right dog to the right person. And we get some dogs out of here.
Excellent. Now, you had indicated that even before you started with fostering, you financially were involved with rescues. And so obviously you're someone who's has obviously a big heart, but has enjoyed animals and caring for them previously.
I've always been an animal person. We've always had dogs in our lives. Growing up, I don't remember a day I didn't have a dog. My parents were big into animals, and I just couldn't get myself to be more involved and see some of the things that you see when you are involved.
Right.
And so then after I came back from my stem cell transplant, I decided that, you know what, it's time to be more involved. It's time that I can do this, and without people being involved, we can't save these dogs. And I really noticed it with Northern Reach Rescue. We have the money, we have the resources, we don't have the fosters to bring the dogs in.
So you saw a need in an area where you could be effective in helping with that.
And it really, when I realized that it isn't always just about the money with these rescues, it's about the people willing to get their hands dirty.
And physical time.
And physical time, yep. And I just started out fostering at first. And I didn't really realize what was all involved because I just went and got my dog at the airport and went home and didn't pay much attention. But about a month ago, my friend and we drove up to Round Lake and got dogs for them. So 12 hours up, and that's the very last part you can go on a road in Ontario. That's the farthest north you can go.
It actually ends, yeah.
Yeah, it actually ends at Round Lake. Very interesting. And it's quite the adventure, and came back with 8 dogs.
Now I'm going to back you up a little bit for a second. You had indicated that yourself, you've experienced some personal medical challenges. How has that impacted your work with the rescue and the animals that you've had in your life?
So about 4, maybe 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with rapidly progressing diffuse scleroderma.
Okay.
Extremely rare. They don't know how you get it. They gave me about 2 years to live.
Wow.
So I didn't accept that and went online and did research and ended up in Chicago getting a stem cell transplant.
Okay.
One of the things I learned from that is you have to do everything you want to do now, because there might not be a later.
Right.
And I always thought of myself as somebody who helped out and gave myself to things, and I realized that I really wasn't doing that as much as I could.
Okay.
And again, the love of the animals got me into, I decided to put my time into rescue and to just actually get into it and do it. So
Wholeheartedly, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I always thought that it was the travel that I wanted to do until I started the rescue, and then I realized, no, this is where I want to put the rest of my life, whatever I have left,
Excellent.
into.
So that brings us to our other guest today, who is your lovely dog, Jem. Jem is a special needs dog.
Yes.
Could you share a little bit about Jem's story with us? How did she come into your care?
Jem came into rescue when she was 3 weeks old after having a back injury.
Okay.
She actually went to Paws for Love, or is the rescue that brought her in. And she went to a couple fosters, and then we were asked to help find a rescue in Southern Ontario for her who has more resources for her type of injury.
Okay.
So I fostered her for a month.
Okay.
And they came and they took her down to Southern Ontario in Toronto, and I decided that I needed her back. So I called up and I adopted her. And I've had her officially now for almost a year and a half.
Okay.
And it's been a very interesting process. There's no real place to go out there and find out what you need to do with a special needs dog.
Okay. Until you actually have it and
Until
you're doing
you have
it.
it, yes.
Yeah.
There's some people that I've got great contacts who have helped me along the way, but the reality is you just have to figure it out.
Fair enough. Kind of like we do in our own lives,
Yes.
right? It's
Yeah. You have to figure it out. You have to get a routine, and once the dog's in the routine, just like a normal dog,
Right.
there's just a few more steps you have to do with a special needs dog like Jem.
So with Jem, what are some of her, maybe some things that daily people who love animals and don't have special needs animals maybe take for granted? Like, what are some of her daily challenges kind of from start to nighttime?
The biggest daily challenge is the house.
Okay. So mobility within the
Mobility within the house. I'm in an old house on Catherine Street.
house? Okay.
Unless there's carpet everywhere, which you don't want because of incontinence issues,
Yes.
she can't move around in the house that much.
Okay.
So we have made little areas for her within the house. The other challenge is obviously the incontinence issues.
Okay.
You have to express a dog that's paralyzed or injured. And once you learn how to do that and get in a routine, it's actually kind of nice because you can make them go whenever you want to.
You're in control instead of
Yeah.
them. Yeah. Okay.
She has now gone to the point where she can tell us when she needs to go.
Okay.
It's taken a while, but she's got there. So that's made life a lot easier.
Okay.
But it's mostly the mobility. Like I am much stronger because of Jem carrying her up and down flights of stairs and
Right. So there's physical demands on you
Yes.
to care for her.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Like she goes up 3 flights of stairs to go to bed.
Right. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Things like that. So, and my friends who have babysat her, they say the same thing. It's just, you just have to figure it out. I
Right.
can tell them as much as I want, but they'll do it completely different than I do it, and it still works.
Yep. Teach their own, right?
Yeah.
Finding your own way. What do you think are some of the special or really important things that you've taken away in kind of a positive light? We've talked a little bit about the challenges, mobility, incontinence, bladder control, those kinds of things. But what are some of the things that maybe you get to experience with Jem that in a good way, in a positive way, that maybe someone who doesn't have a dog that has special needs would be able to experience?
It's It's hard to say. Sometimes I feel bad saying it, but I have a very different connection with Jem than I do with my other 2 huskies.
Okay.
I love my other 2 huskies to death. They're 10 and 11 now, and they're very special to me. But I have a much deeper connection with Jem. She depends on me for almost everything in her life, whereas the other ones can be independent and move around. And when you're carrying her every single day, several times a day, like you pick her up and you're expressing her and she's looking at you, licking you, and like there's just something different. It's really hard to explain. And
do you think you have a different appreciation for that because you've had some medical struggles yourself?
I would say so, yes. The one thing that dogs in general, like coming back from the stem cell transplant, I wasn't walking more than a house away or up the stairs, but I have dogs and they need to go for walks, and they pushed me to do that. So I think like most of my friends who I met down south in Chicago, they ended up with dogs to push them to walk farther and farther and farther all the time. And then with Jem, I think the biggest thing that I took from her being special needs and me having that issue is to also let her be a dog.
Yeah.
When I was sick, I didn't want everybody doing everything for me. And I'm sure she feels the same way.
Right.
Just let her go.
Her
She hikes
independence.
10 Ks with the huskies. I let her off leash and she's a mile away from me on the hikes.
Wow.
And she needs that. She's a dog.
So that's another actually interesting point. Does she enjoy being around other animals and you know, kind of that socialization that our pets like?
Yeah, she loves other animals. She very much stands up for herself,
Okay.
which is awesome. And so I've never had any issue with any of the fosters. I've had over 100 fosters in the last year and a half, and she's never had a problem with any of them.
Wow.
She likes to play with them, or she just tells them no.
Okay.
But she loves the other animals being around.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see that she still enjoys, even with her limitations, you know, her own interaction in that way.
The puppies do better with her.
Okay.
And you know, it's funny because the dogs know.
Oh, for sure.
They definitely treat her different. They're scared of her,
Okay.
especially in her wheels. Some dogs won't even go near her in her wheels. And then there's a few of them that just don't care.
Right.
And those are the ones that tend to stay a little bit longer.
Okay.
They miss their transport down south and stay another 2 weeks because they play with
A little
Jem.
extra time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's a big part of her kind of, I guess, continued therapy is that interaction with other animals? Do you think that's something that she thrives and has gotten her as far along as she is today?
For sure. It gets her up and moving. When we go hiking, she wants to keep up with them.
Right. So to drive for
And
her.
she does everything she can to keep up with them. If they go down the hill, she goes down the hill.
Right.
So it has definitely given her a drive.
Almost like some inspiration, right?
Yeah.
For every day.
Yeah.
That's excellent. One final question I have for you for today would be, if any of our viewers out there are interested in becoming involved in many different or any of the facets within a rescue organization, or maybe even really specifically thinking about being inspired by your story and Jem's story and wanting to work with special needs animals, what would be your recommendation for them moving forward in terms of, you know, you said you really have to do it to know, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of setting their expectations up that are realistic or understanding some of the challenges that they're going to face?
Talk to somebody.
Okay.
Just get a hold of anybody through Facebook or Instagram that you see has one, a special needs animal, because they're everywhere. They really are. I couldn't believe how much there are in wheelchairs.
Right. It's a whole community in itself,
yeah,
right?
And talk to somebody about it, because I was extremely overwhelmed the first time I had her.
Okay.
And I babied her and I let her dictate things. And you wouldn't do that with a normal dog.
Right.
And so when I got her the second time, I had to make sure that I knew what I was doing, and I set routines, and I asked everybody everything. And then once you find out all the information, just do what comes naturally to you.
Awesome. Well, I thank you very much, Erin, for sharing that information, and hopefully there are people out there who continue the work that you're doing moving forward. Again, thank you for your time, and thanks everyone for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next episode of Let's Bark About It.